On a freezing winter night at a deserted bus stop, a young black nurse stood shivering, pockets empty after being robbed during his shift. The cold bit into his bones, each breath a knife. Just as the darkness threatened to swallow him, a luxury SUV slowed beside the curb. A white woman leaned out, worry etched in her eyes. "Are you okay? Get in." He had no idea that stepping into that car would open a journey destined to change his entire life forever. Before we dive in, where are you from? Drop a comment below, and tell me, and don't forget to hype and subscribe for more heartwarming stories every day. The wind cut through Riverside City like a knife. -12 degrees Celsius. That's cold enough to make your lungs hurt with every breath. The kind of cold that seeps into your bones and doesn't let go. Malik Turner stood at Treeline Station, swaying slightly on his feet. 28 years old, wearing scrubs that were supposed to be blue but looked gray under the yellow streetlights. His shoes were caked with slush. His eyes, God, his eyes were bloodshot, hollow. 14 hours, that's how long his shift had been at Riverside General Hospital. He reached into his pocket for his wallet. Needed bus fare. Needed something warm to drink before the next bus came. His hand found nothing. He tried the other pocket. Nothing. A cold feeling, colder than the wind, spread through his chest. Malik patted down his jacket, his pants, checked the inside pocket where he always kept his phone. Gone. He even checked his shoe where he tucked a $20 bill for emergencies. Everything. Gone. No. 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 He remembered now. During his break around 2 a.m. he'd sat down in the hospital waiting area. Just for a minute. Just to close his eyes. There'd been people walking by, the squeak of wheels, voices talking, but he'd been too exhausted to pay attention. Someone had robbed him while he slept. Malik looked up at the digital display board. Next bus. 57 minutes. 57 minutes in this cold. He pulled his thin scrubs jacket tighter, but it did nothing. The fabric might as well have been paper. His hands were already numb. He couldn't feel his fingers when he tried to move them. His teeth started chattering so hard he bit his tongue. The station was almost empty. Just a few shadowy figures huddled in the shelters further down. No one was coming to help. No one even looked his way. Malik thought about his grandmother. 74 years old, waiting up for him at home. She'd be worried by now. She always worried. A small terrible thought crept in. What if I don't make it home tonight? Then he heard it. The low purr of an engine. A white SUV, sleek, expensive, glowing like something from another world, slid to a stop at the curb. The window rolled down and warm air poured out into the frozen night. "Excuse me. Are you okay?" Malik blinked. A woman was looking at him from the driver's seat. White. Maybe mid-30s, dark hair pulled back. Her eyes, there was something in her eyes. Not pity. Concern. Real concern. "You look like you're freezing to death," she said. "It's dangerous out here. Please get in." Every warning Malik had ever heard screamed in his head. Don't get in cars with strangers. Don't trust people you don't know. This is how people disappear. But his body was shutting down. He could barely think straight. And something about her voice, it wasn't the voice of someone trying to hurt him. "I don't even know you." Malik managed through chattering teeth. "My name is Alexandra Pierce." She reached into her coat and pulled out a business card, holding it up to the window. "I'm the CEO of Pierce Quantum Analytics. I was driving home from a late meeting when I saw you here." Malik squinted at the card. Pierce Quantum Analytics. He'd heard that name before. Something about artificial intelligence, medical technology. Big company. Reputable. "Look," Alexandra continued. "I completely understand if you don't trust me, but you're in real danger if you stay out here. If you want, I can call the police and they can verify who I am. Or follow us to make sure you get home safe." Malik's legs felt unsteady. His vision was starting to blur at the edges. The thought of sitting in that warm car was almost overwhelming. "Why do you care?" The words came out harsher than he meant. "Why stop for me?" Alexandra was quiet for a moment. "Then my mother was a nurse. She worked night shifts at the county hospital for 20 years. She used to wait for buses just like this. In neighborhoods just like this one. Her voice softened. She always said the people who keep this city running. Nurses, sanitation workers, security guards, they're the ones society overlooks when they need help the most. Something in her voice convinced him. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the cold. Maybe it was just that gut instinct his grandmother had taught him to trust. Okay, Malik whispered. Okay. He stumbled around to the passenger side. His reflection in the car's polished surface shocked him. He looked like death. Gray skin, haunted eyes, scraggly beard he hadn't had time to trim. Alexandra leaned over and opened the door. The moment Malik sank into that leather seat, the warmth hit him like a wave. His whole body started shaking even harder as it thawed out. Soft jazz played from the speakers. Something gentle, nothing jarring. "Thank you," he said, buckling his seatbelt with trembling hands. "Don't mention it." Alexandra pulled smoothly away from the curb. "I'm Alexandra, by the way. What's your name?" Malik Turner." "It's good to meet you, Malik. I'm sorry it's under these circumstances." She glanced at him at a red light. "What happened? How'd you end up stranded out there?" Shame burned in Malik's chest as he explained. Falling asleep during his break. Waking up to find everything gone. "I should have been more careful," he mumbled. "Hey." Alexandra's voice was sharp. "That's not your fault. You shouldn't have to worry about being robbed while you're resting after working all night taking care of people." The anger in her voice on his behalf surprised him. Most people would have assumed he'd done something wrong, made some mistake, but she immediately defended him. It felt strange and comforting. "Can I ask you something?" Malik said as they drove through the quiet streets. "Why were you really out this late? Business meetings don't usually run until 3 a.m. Alexandra's hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. "I couldn't sleep. I've been having trouble with that lately. So I went to my office to work. Sometimes keeping busy is easier than lying awake thinking." There was something heavy in her voice. Something that made Malik want to ask what she was thinking about, but they'd only known each other for 10 minutes. "I get that," he said instead. "I work so many double shifts partly because I need the money, but also because it's easier than sitting at home worrying about my grandmother's medical bills." Alexandra looked at him with new understanding. "She's sick. Diabetes and heart problems. The medications are expensive, and she needs someone checking on her regularly." Malik felt the familiar weight settle on his shoulders. "I work 3 jobs, the hospital, a clinic and private care on weekends. It's still barely enough." "That must be exhausting." "It is. But she raised me after my parents died. I owe her everything." They pulled into a parking lot. Bright Owl Diner. The neon sign read. Warm yellow light spilled from the windows. "You can use my phone to call her if you want," Alexandra said. "Let her know you're okay." That simple offer, no conditions, just kindness, made Malik's throat tight. "Thank you," he said, and meant it more than she could know. Inside Bright Owl Diner, the warmth was like a physical embrace. Red vinyl booths. The smell of fresh coffee and bacon grease. A few late-night stragglers scattered around, a truck driver reading a newspaper, a young couple sharing pie, an elderly man nursing coffee at the counter. Alexandra chose a booth in the back. As they slid into opposite sides, Malik realized this was the first time in months he'd sat somewhere that felt genuinely safe and warm, without worrying about what it cost. "Order whatever you want," Alexandra said, sliding a menu across. "My treat." Malik started to protest, but she held up a hand. "Please, you've had a terrible night, and you're actually helping me too. I hate eating alone." He scanned the menu, automatically looking for the cheapest items. Soup and toast would be. "She'll have the turkey club with fries," Alexandra told the waitress who appeared. "And I'll take the same." Malik looked at her. "That's too much, it's just a sandwich. Besides, you need real food after the night you've had." She slid her phone across the table. "Call your grandmother while we wait." His grandmother's number was one of the few he'd memorized. It rang twice. "Hello, Grandma, it's me. I'm okay." Malik, thank God, I've been trying to call you for hours. Where are you? He explained what happened, carefully leaving out the scarier details. As he talked, he noticed Alexandra pretending to read the menu but clearly listening, making sure he was truly safe. You got in a car with a stranger. His grandmother's voice rose. I know it sounds crazy, Grandma, but I was literally going to freeze to death. And he glanced at Alexandra, who was now genuinely absorbed in the menu. She's a good person. I can just tell. After a few more minutes of reassurance, he hung up. She sounds like she loves you very much, Alexandra said with a soft smile. She does. Sometimes too much. Malik wrapped his hands around the coffee mug the waitress had brought. The heat felt incredible. She worries about me working so much. But she doesn't understand I don't really have a choice. Tell me about her. The way Alexandra asked, like she genuinely wanted to know, made Malik open up in a way he rarely did with anyone. She's incredible. Strongest person I've ever met. She was a teacher for 40 years, raised 5 kids, then took me in when I was 8 after my parents died in a car accident. That must have been hard. For both of you. It was, but she never once made me feel like a burden. Malik smiled at the memory. She used to say I was her gift from God, sent to keep her young. She taught me everything: how to cook, how to study, how to stand up for myself. But mostly she taught me that caring for people is the most important thing you can do. Is that why you became a nurse? Partly, but also because it's steady work. The medical field always needs people. Malik took a sip of coffee. I wanted a career where I'd never have to worry about finding a job. What about you? He asked, turning the conversation. What made you start your company? Alexandra was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. My father worked for other people his whole life. Always worried about layoffs, budget cuts. I watched him stress constantly about providing for our family, never feeling secure no matter how hard he worked. I decided I wanted to be in control of my own future. Is he proud of what you've built? A shadow crossed Alexandra's face. I hope so. It's hard to tell these days. He has Alzheimer's, and most of the time he doesn't remember who I am. Malik's heart ached. I'm so sorry. That must be incredibly difficult. It is. He was my hero growing up, this strong, brilliant man who could fix anything and solve any problem. Now he needs help with everything, and half the time he thinks I'm a stranger. Alexandra's voice caught. The worst part is knowing that somewhere inside, he's still there. But I just can't reach him. Where is he now? In a memory care facility. The best one in the state, with excellent staff and all the latest treatments. But, she sighed. I visit him every day, but I can't shake this feeling that I'm failing him. Like I should be doing more. Malik reached across the table, his fingers gently touching her hand. You are not failing him. Caring for someone with Alzheimer's is more than most people can handle on their own. The fact that you visit every day and ensure he has the best care shows exactly how much you love him. Alexandra looked up at him, surprise and gratitude in her eyes. Thank you for saying that. Most people just don't understand. I work with many families dealing with similar situations, Malik explained, briefly squeezing her hand before withdrawing. The guilt is always the hardest part. But your father raised you to be successful and caring. Even if he can't remember it now, that's still part of who you are because of him. Their food arrived, and they ate in comfortable silence for a while. Malik couldn't remember the last time he'd enjoyed a meal this much, or the last time he'd felt this relaxed talking to someone new. But as comfortable as he felt, Malik couldn't shake the awareness that someone was watching them. A man in a dark coat, sitting alone 3 booths over. Baseball cap pulled low. He'd been there when they arrived, and he kept glancing their way. Not constantly, just enough to be noticeable. And his phone was on the table, angled toward them. Malik's instincts, honed from years working late-night shifts in rough neighborhoods, started pinging. The man's fingers moved across his phone screen. Camera app maybe. Everything okay? Alexandra asked, noticing his distraction. Yeah, just thought I recognized someone. Malik didn't want to worry her, probably nothing. But when they left 20 minutes later, the man left 30 seconds after them. And when Alexandra's SUV pulled onto the main road, Malik saw, just for a moment, headlights flick on from a dark sedan parked across the street, following them. They pulled up in front of Malik's grandmother's house on Willow Street, small, modest, paint peeling slightly but well maintained. Lights on in the front window. She was waiting up. Before Malik could open the door, Alexandra spoke. "Wait, I have something I want to ask you." Malik turned. Alexandra's expression was serious now, all business. "My father needs a private nurse, someone patient, someone who understands elder care, someone with a good heart." She looked directly at him. "You seem to have all three." "What? He has Alzheimer's. He's in a good facility, but he needs more one-on-one attention than they can provide. I've been looking for the right person for months." Malik's mind was reeling. "I don't have specialized training in dementia care, but you have experience with elderly patients, and more importantly, you have compassion." Alexandra paused. "That's what he needs most." She named a figure that made Malik's breath catch. It was more than he made at all three jobs combined. "Why would you offer this to me? You barely know me." "Because in the last few hours, you've shown me more genuine kindness than most people I've known for years." Alexandra pulled out another business card, writing something on the back. "It would give you more time with your own grandmother too." Malik stared at the card, his heart pounding. This seemed too good to be true, way too good. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything yet, just think about it." She pressed the card into his hand. "That's my personal number. Call me when you decide." As Malik stepped out of the car, his mind spun. A job that paid well, doing work he was already trained for. It seemed impossible, but as Alexandra drove away with a friendly wave, he realized something. Maybe his terrible night was turning into the beginning of something wonderful. He had no way of knowing that someone had followed them from the diner to his house, and was at that very moment, taking pictures of his front door. Malik barely slept. His mind kept replaying the conversation with Alexandra, wondering if the job offer was real, or just a dream. When his alarm went off at 6 a.m. for his clinic shift, it felt like he'd just closed his eyes. His grandmother was already up, seated at the kitchen table with her morning medications arranged in neat rows. Margaret Vance was 74, but moved with the determined energy of someone much younger. Her silver hair was styled perfectly, and she wore a bright yellow sweater that made her dark skin glow. "Morning, baby," she said, looking up from her pill organizer. "You were out late last night. I told you what happened, Grandma." Malik kissed her cheek, poured himself coffee. "The woman who helped me, she offered me a job." Margaret's eyes narrowed. A rich woman offering jobs to pretty young men she just met. "I've heard that story before." "It's not like that. She needs a private nurse for her father. He has Alzheimer's. It's legitimate work, and Grandma, the money, it could change everything for us." Margaret studied her grandson's face. "You've always been a good judge of character, but desperation can cloud judgment. Be careful." "I know, but what if it isn't too good to be true? What if—" A sharp knock echoed through the house. They both froze. It was barely past 6 a.m. They weren't expecting anyone. Malik peered through the peephole. A man in a dark coat stood on the porch, middle-aged, average height, clean-shaven. He looked ordinary enough, but something about his posture, too still, too alert, put Malik on edge. "Can I help you?" Malik called through the door. "I'm looking for Malik Turner. I have some questions about last night." "Who are you?" "Detective Daniel Holt. I'm investigating a robbery in your area." Malik glanced back at his grandmother, who had moved closer. She shook her head slightly. Their neighborhood rarely saw detectives, especially not at dawn. "Can you show me some ID?" The man held up a badge to the peephole. It was hard to see clearly through the small opening, but something about it looked off. The edges seemed blurry, like it had been photocopied. "I just need to ask a few questions about what happened at the bus stop," the man said. "And about the person who gave you a ride." Ice shot through Malik's veins. The only way this man could know about Alexandra was if he'd been watching them. "I'm sorry, but I'm late for work," Malik said firmly. "Can we do this later?" It'll just take a minute. I understand you got a ride from someone last night. I need to know about that person." Now Malik was genuinely alarmed. Margaret stepped forward, her voice sharp and clear through the door. "If you're a real detective, you won't mind giving us your station number and direct line so we can call and verify, will you?" There was a pause. Then the man's voice, slightly colder, "That won't be necessary. This is just routine." "Then it can wait for regular business hours," Margaret said firmly. They heard footsteps retreating from the door. After waiting several careful minutes, Malik peered out the window. The man was gone, but a dark sedan, one that hadn't been there last night, was parked across the street. Someone was sitting inside, watching their house. "Grandma, we need to call the police." The real police, the actual police, arrived within 20 minutes. Two uniformed officers who checked their IDs carefully and took Malik's statement about both the robbery and the disturbing morning visitor. One of the officers examined the photo Margaret had quickly snapped through the peephole when the fake detective was leaving. "We don't have a Detective Daniel Holt in our department," the officer said grimly. "And that badge number doesn't match any of our records. This is fake, and it matches a pattern we've been seeing in cases involving corporate intimidation." The officers seemed genuinely concerned. They explained that several tech companies had reported similar incidents: people being followed, fake officials asking questions, attempts at intimidation. "Do you have somewhere safe you can stay for a few days?" one officer asked. "Until we figure out what this guy wanted." Malik immediately thought of Alexandra's job offer. "Maybe." "Can I ask you something? If someone was watching me because of the person who helped me last night, would that put her in danger too?" "Possibly. I'd strongly recommend calling her as soon as possible, warning her." After the police left, Malik sat in the kitchen with his grandmother trying to process what was happening. "Call her," Margaret said decisively. "If someone's targeting both of you, she needs to know." Malik dialed Alexandra's number with shaking hands. She answered on the second ring. "Malik, I wasn't expecting to hear from you so soon." "Alexandra, something's wrong." The words tumbled out. "A man came to my house this morning, pretending to be a detective, asking about you. The real police think someone might be watching both of us. They said it matches a pattern of corporate intimidation." There was a long pause. When Alexandra spoke again, her voice was different, harder, more controlled. "Are you safe? Are you okay right now?" "For now, yes, but I think your security concerns might be more serious than you thought. I'm coming to get you." "What?" "No, you don't need to. Malik, listen to me." Her voice was firm but gentle. "If someone followed us last night and knows where you live, you're in danger because of me. I'm not going to leave you to deal with that alone. But I barely know you. Why would you put yourself at risk?" "Because it's the right thing to do, and because after last night, I feel like I know you better than people I've worked with for years." She paused. "Pack a bag for you and your grandmother. You're both coming to stay with me until we figure out what's going on." "That's insane. We can't just move into your house." "Yes, you can. I have plenty of space, excellent security, and you'll be much safer there." Another pause. "Besides, if you're going to take the job caring for my father, you'll need to be close by anyway." "I haven't said yes to the job yet." "Then consider this a trial period. Stay for a few days, meet my father, see if it's something you want to do. If not, I'll help you find somewhere else safe to stay." Malik looked at his grandmother, who'd been listening to the whole conversation. Margaret nodded slowly, decisively. "Okay," Malik said, his heart pounding. "Just for a few days, thank you. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Alexandra arrived in a different vehicle, a dark gray SUV with tinted windows. "I suspected my other car might have been compromised," she explained as she helped load their bags. "Someone may have planted a tracking device. This is a backup." As they drove away, Malik noticed the dark sedan pull out behind them. His chest tightened. "They're following us," he said quietly. "I know." Alexandra's voice was calm. Too calm. "Don't worry, I expected that." For the next 20 minutes, Alexandra drove with the skill of someone who'd done this before. Sudden turns, doubling back, using parking garages and one-way streets. Malik watched through the rear window as the sedan fell further and further behind, until it finally disappeared. "How did you learn to drive like that?" Margaret asked, sounding impressed despite herself. "Growing up in the city, plus a few defensive driving courses when the threats started getting serious." They turned onto a tree-lined street, filled with elegant historic homes. At the end of the block, iron gates swung open automatically. Pierce Manor appeared through the trees. It wasn't what Malik had expected. Not a modern glass mansion, but a beautiful colonial-style home with a wide front porch and meticulously maintained gardens. It looked like a home, not a showpiece. "This is where you live?" Malik asked. "I know it's not what you probably expected," Alexandra said as they pulled into the circular driveway. "I could afford something much bigger, but this was my parents' house. I grew up here. It feels like home in a way nowhere else ever could." Inside confirmed his impression. The furniture was comfortable and inviting rather than ostentatiously fancy. Family photographs lined the mantelpiece. Everything was immaculately clean, but had a lived-in warmth. "Your mother decorated this?" Margaret asked, running her hand along a handmade quilt draped over the sofa. "Most of it, yes." Alexandra set their bags down gently. "I've changed a few things over the years, but I wanted to preserve the feeling she created. She always said a house should feel like a hug when you walk through the door." "Smart woman," Margaret said approvingly. Alexandra showed them to their rooms. Margaret would stay on the first floor in a guest room with its own bathroom. Malik's room was upstairs with a large window overlooking the back garden. "This is beautiful," Malik said, looking around at the soft blue walls and antique furniture. "But I feel like we're imposing." "You're not." Alexandra paused in the doorway. "You're helping me feel less alone in this big house." She gestured for them to follow her to the study. A warm room with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a fireplace. "I need to explain some things I should have told you last night," Alexandra began, once they were settled with coffee. Malik and Margaret sat across from her, listening intently. "Pierce Quantum Analytics has been developing breakthrough AI software for medical diagnostics and financial market analysis. It's potentially worth billions." Alexandra's expression darkened. "And it's made me some very powerful enemies. Specifically, a corporate acquisition firm called Vanguard Dominion." The name hung in the air like a threat. "What do they want?" Malik asked. "They want to buy my company. When I refused to sell, they started getting aggressive. For the past 4 months they've been trying different approaches: hacking attempts, industrial espionage, outright threats." "And you think they're targeting me to get to you?" Malik said, feeling ice in his veins. "I think they saw us together last night and decided you might be someone they could use as leverage." Alexandra's eyes were pained. "Malik, I am so sorry. I never intended to put you in danger. You should have warned him last night." Margaret interrupted, her voice sharp. "Before you brought him into your world. Before you made him a target." "You're absolutely right," Alexandra said quietly. "I should have. I thought I could keep this separate. Keep the people I cared about safe by keeping them away from the business. But clearly that's not working. So what do we do now?" Malik asked. Before Alexandra could answer, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her expression darkened. "It's my security company," she answered, listening intently. Her face grew grimmer with each passing second. When she hung up, she looked at both of them. "Someone's been testing the security system around this property. Checking sightlines, timing patrol routes. They think someone's planning something." "How long has this been going on?" Malik asked. "They noticed it yesterday, but it could have been happening longer. They've increased patrols and activated additional sensors." Alexandra's jaw set. "We need to be very careful. And I think it's time you both met my father, so you understand exactly what we're protecting." The next afternoon, they drove to Harmony Hills Care Residence. The facility was nothing like the sterile nursing homes Malik had encountered in his career. The building resembled a luxury hotel: warm lighting, comfortable furniture, manicured gardens visible through every window. Soft classical music floated through the air, and the staff moved with the unhurried confidence of people who genuinely cared. "This is beautiful," Malik remarked as they walked through the lobby. "I wanted the best for him," Alexandra replied, signing them in. "He spent his whole life taking care of others. He deserves somewhere that feels like home." They took the elevator to the second floor. Alexandra led them down a hallway lined with family photos and artwork, stopping at a door with a nameplate, Mr. Pierce Sr. "Before we go in," Alexandra said, her hand resting on the door handle, "I should warn you that he might not recognize me today. Sometimes he thinks I'm a stranger, or someone from his past. It can be difficult." "I understand," Malik said gently. "Whatever happens, we'll handle it together." Alexandra knocked softly before opening the door. The room was spacious and filled with natural light. A man in his 70s sat in a recliner by the window, staring out at the trees with a distant contemplative expression. Robert Pierce Sr. had clearly been a handsome man in his youth. Traces remained in his strong jawline and intelligent eyes. But there was a fragility to him now, a confusion that clouded his features and made him seem smaller than he likely once was. "Hi, Dad," Alexandra said, approaching slowly. "I brought some friends to meet you." Robert looked up with polite interest but no recognition. "That's kind of you, young lady. I don't get many visitors these days." Alexandra's face tightened almost imperceptibly, but she kept her voice steady. "This is Malik, and this is Margaret. They're nurses." Robert's expression brightened. "Nurses? My wife was a nurse. Beautiful woman, sharp as a whip. Have you met her?" "No, sir," Malik said kindly, pulling up a chair next to Robert's. "But I'd love to hear about her." Something in Malik's gentle tone seemed to focus Robert's attention. "Maria was the finest nurse in the whole hospital," Robert said, his voice gaining strength. "She could make anyone feel better just by walking into their room. She had this way of talking to people that made them feel seen, important." Alexandra sat on Robert's other side, and Malik noticed how carefully she positioned herself, close enough to offer support, but not so close as to overwhelm him if his confusion returned. "She sounds wonderful," Malik said. "What was your favorite thing about her?" "Her laugh." Robert's smile was soft, distant. "She laughed at everything. My terrible jokes, funny things at work, even her own mistakes. She always said life was too short not to find joy in the little things." His eyes grew misty. "I can still hear it sometimes when the wind blows through the trees." Margaret, who'd been quietly observing, moved closer. "How long were you married, Robert?" 42 years, best years of my life." Robert looked at Margaret with sudden sharp focus. "You remind me of her, you know. Something about your eyes." "I'll take that as a compliment," Margaret said warmly. For the next hour, they sat with Robert as he told stories about his wife, his career as an electrician, memories from raising his children. Sometimes he was completely lucid, recalling details with perfect clarity. Other times he seemed confused about timelines or who he was talking to. But throughout it all, Malik noticed something. Robert responded remarkably well to patient, gentle conversation. When confusion crept in, Malik would gently redirect him with a question or a comment, never correcting him, just guiding him back to calmer waters. "You're very good with him," Alexandra said quietly, when Robert dozed off in his chair, exhausted from the visit. "He's a sweet man. I can see where you get your kindness. Some days he's angry, scared, doesn't want anyone near him." Alexandra's voice was thick with emotion. "But today he seems peaceful. Love doesn't disappear just because memory does," Malik said softly, watching Robert's sleeping face. "He might not remember who you are, but he feels safe with you. I can see it in how he relaxes when you're close." "Do you really think so?" "I know so. It's something you learn working with dementia patients. The emotional connections remain even when the cognitive ones fade." As they prepared to leave, Robert woke and looked directly at Alexandra. For a brief crystalline moment, his eyes were completely lucid. "Thank you for coming to see me, sweetheart. I know it's hard." Alexandra's breath hitched. "Dad," but the moment was already gone. Robert was looking at her with polite confusion again. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" "It's okay, Dad." Alexandra leaned down and kissed his forehead, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "I'll see you tomorrow." In the car on the way back, none of them spoke for several minutes. The weight of what they'd witnessed, both the beauty of Robert's clear moments and the cruelty of his confusion, hung heavy in the air. Finally, Margaret broke the silence. "He's lucky to have you, Alexandra. Not everyone would visit every day, especially when it's so painful. I keep hoping for more moments like that." Alexandra confessed, her voice raw. "Where he remembers, even if it's just for a second. Those moments are gifts." Malik said. They mean he's still fighting, still there underneath everything. Alexandra turned to him, her eyes searching his face. Would you consider taking the job? I know it's a lot to ask, but I truly believe you could help him in ways the staff here can't. Malik had been thinking about this since they left the facility. What exactly would you need me to do? Spend time with him during the day. Talk to him, read to him, play music, help with physical therapy exercises. Just be there so he's not alone so much. And the pay, Alexandra named the figure again, more than he made at all 3 jobs combined. That's too much, he said automatically. No, it's not, it's what the job is worth to me. Alexandra's voice was firm. You'd be providing a service that's incredibly valuable, giving my father the kind of care he deserves, and giving me peace of mind. Margaret turned in her seat to look at Malik. Sometimes you have to let people help you, baby. This woman is offering you good money for honest work. There's no shame in that. But what if I'm not good enough? What if I can't help him? You helped him today, Alexandra said. I saw it. He was calmer with you than he's been with anyone in months. Please, Malik, at least try it. A few hours a day at first, see how it goes. Malik thought about his grandmother's medical bills, about the crushing exhaustion of working 3 jobs, about the possibility, the incredible, almost unbelievable possibility, of finally having financial security. Okay, he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. I'll try it, but I want to start slowly, a few hours a day at first, to see how he responds. Whatever you're comfortable with. Alexandra agreed, relief evident in her voice. As they pulled into Pierce Manor's driveway, Malik's phone buzzed. A text from the hospital where he'd missed shifts. His stomach dropped as he read it. Due to unexplained absences without proper documentation, your employment has been terminated effective immediately. Your final paycheck will be mailed. Alexandra noticed his expression. What's wrong? I just lost my job at the hospital. His voice trembled. I handled the transition badly, and now I'm completely dependent on you. If this doesn't work out, I have nothing to fall back on. Hey, Alexandra pulled the car to a stop and turned to face him fully, her hands gentle on his shoulders. It's going to work out. You're amazing at what you do, and even if something happened with my father's care, I would help you find another position. You're not alone anymore, Malik. You can't promise that. I can promise that I won't let you end up back where you started. Her eyes were intense, sincere. You saved me from being alone on the worst night. Let me do the same for you now. The sincerity in her voice made Malik's chest tight with emotion he didn't know how to process. But their moment was interrupted by Alexandra's phone buzzing urgently. She glanced at the screen and her expression darkened. It's my security company again, she said, answering. She listened for a moment, her face growing grimmer. When she hung up, she looked at both of them. They've detected more unusual activity around the property. Someone's been testing response times, checking for weak points in the perimeter. This is the 2nd time this week. Her jaw set. They think someone's planning to make a move soon. We need to be very, very careful. That night, as Malik lay in bed staring at the ceiling of his temporary room, he couldn't shake 2 competing feelings: gratitude for this unexpected refuge, and a growing dread that their troubles were only just beginning. Somewhere out there, Vanguard Dominion was watching, waiting, planning, and Malik had become part of whatever game they were playing. 3 days later, Malik had settled into a routine, mornings at Harmony Hills with Robert, afternoons helping Margaret settle in at Pierce Manor, evenings having dinner with Alexandra where they talked about everything and nothing. He was at Harmony Hills helping Robert with his afternoon physical therapy exercises, when he noticed something wrong. A man in a maintenance uniform was outside the window, watching them. Not just glancing, staring, focused, intense. Malik's instincts flared. He'd seen enough suspicious behavior working night shifts to recognize it. He gently settled Robert back in his chair. I'll be right back, Mr. Pierce. Just need to check on something. In the hallway, Malik looked toward the window. The man was gone. He went straight to the nurse's station. Was there supposed to be maintenance on this floor today? The charge nurse frowned, checking her computer. No, we don't have anyone scheduled for this wing. Malik's blood ran cold. there was a man in a maintenance uniform watching Mr. Pierce's room through the window. About 5 minutes ago. The charge nurse's expression shifted to alarm. She immediately picked up the phone, calling security. Within minutes, the facility was in controlled lockdown mode. Security swept the building methodically. They found no sign of the intruder, but security footage told a damning story. A man in coveralls had entered through a side service door that was supposed to be locked. He'd moved directly to the second floor, positioned himself outside Robert Pierce's window, then disappeared through the same door when Malik went to investigate. "This is very serious," the security director told Malik, his face grim. "We need to notify the police and Miss Pierce immediately. This is the second suspicious incident at this facility this week. We had an attempted access to our digital records system 3 days ago that we couldn't trace. Someone is deliberately targeting Mr. Pierce." Alexandra arrived within 20 minutes, her face tight with barely controlled fury. "Are you okay? Is my father okay?" "We're both fine," Malik assured her. "But Alexandra, they know where he is. They're not just watching anymore, they're testing his security, looking for ways to get to him." Alexandra spoke rapidly with the security director and facility administrator, arranging for additional security measures, restricted access to Robert's floor, security guards posted outside his room, enhanced monitoring. Then she turned to Malik, her voice low and urgent. "We need to leave. If they're bold enough to try this at a secure facility, they're escalating." In the car, Alexandra's hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. "I should never have brought you into this," she said, her voice thick with guilt. "You and your grandmother, you're in danger because of me." "You didn't bring us into anything," Malik said firmly. "You helped me when I needed it. What's happening now, that's on them. On Vanguard, but no buts, we're in this together now." Malik's voice was stronger than he felt. "So what do? We can't just wait for them to make another move." Alexandra was quiet for a long moment. "Then we fight back, but we need help." That evening 2 people arrived at Pierce Manor. The first was a woman in her early 40s, with sharp eyes and an air of no-nonsense competence. Detective Jenna Stone, she introduced herself, shaking hands with Malik and Margaret. "I've been investigating Vanguard Dominion for 6 months. The second was a younger man, nervous, escorted by 2 uniformed officers. "This is Mark Everett," Detective Stone explained. "We arrested him this morning, attempting to hack into Pierce Quantum servers. He's been working for Vanguard, and he's agreed to cooperate in exchange for a reduced sentence." They all gathered in Alexandra's study. Mark Everett sat hunched in his chair, avoiding eye contact. "Tell them what you told me," Detective Stone said. Everett swallowed hard. "Vanguard Dominion has been running, they call them pressure campaigns, against tech companies they want to acquire. It's a whole system. They identify targets, research their lives, find pressure points." "Pressure points?" Malik asked, though he already knew the answer. "Family, friends, anyone the target cares about." Everett finally looked up, his expression miserable. "When Miss Pierce refused to sell, they started surveillance. They saw you 2 together that night at the diner. Decided you might be someone she'd care about protecting. So they added you to the surveillance list." Malik felt sick. The fake detective, the man at the facility, that was all them. "Yes, they have people, private investigators, former cops, hackers. They use intimidation, sabotage, whatever it takes to force a sale." "Have they done this to other companies?" Alexandra asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "Dozens, over the past 5 years. Everett looked at Detective Stone. "I've given her names, dates, everything I have." Detective Stone nodded. "Everett's information is valuable, but he's small-time. He's not the one making decisions. We need to find out who's really running this operation at Vanguard, and we need evidence that'll hold up in court." "How do we do that?" Margaret asked from her chair by the fireplace. "By giving them what they want," Detective Stone said. "Or making them think we are." The plan was straightforward but dangerous. Alexandra would contact Vanguard and agree to a meeting to discuss selling Pierce Quantum. The meeting would be at the Lunar Meridian Hotel, a public upscale location where police could maintain surveillance without drawing attention. Alexandra would wear a concealed recording device, hoping to capture Vanguard's representatives making threats or admitting to illegal activities. It's risky, Detective Stone warned. If they realize what you're doing, things could turn violent very quickly. More risky than letting them continue. Alexandra countered. Probably not, the detective admitted. Malik felt anxiety clench his stomach. What if something goes wrong? What if they figure it out? Alexandra turned to him. Malik, I need you to trust me. This is the only way to end this. If we don't stop them now, they'll just keep coming after us. After you. I know, but he looked into her eyes, and the next words came out before he could stop them. I'm scared of losing you. I just found you, and you're not going to lose me. Alexandra reached up to cup his face gently. I promise you that. You can't promise something like that. Yes, I can, because I have too much to live for now. Her eyes were intense, full of emotion. I have my father. I have you. I'm not going anywhere. She was going to kiss him. Malik could see it in her eyes, could feel the pull between them. But Margaret cleared her throat from the doorway. Sorry to interrupt, she said, her expression grave, but there's something else. She held up a piece of paper. This was slipped under the front door while we were talking. Alexandra took the paper and read it aloud, her voice flat and cold. Miss Pierce, your recent activities have been noted. We suggest you reconsider your position before someone gets hurt. This is your final warning. The room fell into heavy silence. They know about the police investigation, Malik said quietly. Which means they either have someone on the inside, Detective Stone said, her expression grim, or they've been watching this house very carefully. Either way, Alexandra said, her jaw set with determination. We move forward. Tomorrow. The meeting happens tomorrow. The meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. at the Lunar Meridian Hotel. Malik spent the morning at Harmony Hills with Robert, trying to distract himself from the gnawing worry about what was coming. But Robert, with one of his surprising moments of clarity, seemed to sense Malik's distraction. You're troubled about something, Robert said, his eyes unexpectedly sharp and focused. It's nothing, Mr. Pierce, just some work stress. It's about my daughter, isn't it? Robert's gaze was piercing. She's in some kind of trouble. Malik was startled by his awareness. What makes you say that? I may not remember much these days, but I know my girl. She's got her mother's heart, always trying to do the right thing, even when it costs her. Robert reached out and took Malik's hand with surprising strength. You care about her, don't you? Yes, sir, I do. Good. Robert squeezed his hand. She needs someone who sees her for who she really is, not just what she's accomplished. Someone who'll stand with her when things get hard. His eyes grew distant again, the clarity fading. Just take care of her, would you? My little girl needs taking care of, even if she won't admit it. At 1:30 p.m., they gathered in Alexandra's study for final preparations. Alexandra wore a tailored business suit, professional, confident, giving nothing away. Detective Stone attached a small recording device, nearly invisible, to the inside of her collar. Remember, the detective instructed, your only job is to get them talking. Don't push too hard, don't ask leading questions, let them tell you what they want, and if they threaten you directly, we move in immediately. Malik watched all this, his stomach in knots. Alexandra caught his eye, and gave him a small brave smile. I'll be fine, she mouthed. Detective Stone turned to Malik. You'll be in the lobby cafe, as we discussed. You're our extra set of eyes. If you see anything suspicious, anything at all, you text me immediately. But under no circumstances do you intervene directly. Understood? Malik nodded, though every instinct screamed that he should be closer to Alexandra, should be able to protect her. Let's go, Detective Stone said. The Lunar Meridian Hotel was gleaming marble and crystal chandeliers, bustling with afternoon business travelers and tourists. Malik positioned himself in the lobby cafe, securing a table with a clear view of the restaurant entrance. His coffee sat untouched in front of him. His phone was in his hand, ready. Detective Stone and her team were scattered throughout the hotel, some posing as guests, others as staff. Malik had been briefed on who they were, but they blended so seamlessly he could barely pick them out. At exactly 2 p.m., Alexandra entered the restaurant. Malik watched as she was led to a table where two men in expensive suits were already waiting. Even from a distance, he could see the tension in her posture as she sat down. The meeting began. Malik forced himself to breathe steadily, to appear like just another person having coffee. But his eyes never left that restaurant entrance. He'd been watching for about 10 minutes when he noticed something wrong. A man in a hotel uniform, crisp white shirt, black vest, name tag, was moving through the lobby. But his movement seemed off, too purposeful, too focused. He kept glancing toward the restaurant, and something about his behavior set off every alarm bell in Malik's head. It reminded him eerily of the fake maintenance worker at Harmony Hills. Malik quickly pulled out his phone and texted Detective Stone. Suspicious man in hotel uniform, moving toward restaurant. Something feels wrong. Might not be real staff. He watched his phone, waiting for a response. It came within seconds. Describe him. Malik typed rapidly. White male 30s, black vest uniform, but he's watching the restaurant too carefully. Moving like he has a specific target. We're on it, keep watching. Within a minute, Malik saw two of the plainclothes officers beginning to move casually through the lobby, positioning themselves closer to the restaurant. But the man in the uniform was faster. He disappeared into the restaurant through a service entrance. Malik's heart hammered. He typed, he's inside the restaurant. Went through service door. Then Malik saw something that made his blood turn to ice. Through the restaurant's glass walls, he could see the man. He was behind the bar now, carrying what looked like a drink tray. And he was moving directly toward Alexandra's table. Malik watched through the glass as the man reached the bar area, positioned himself with the tray. His hand moved under the cloth napkin. Something glinted. Metal. Thin. A syringe. Time seemed to stop. Malik saw it all in horrible crystalline clarity. The fake server's fingers wrapping around the syringe. Alexandra at her table, completely unaware, her back to the bar. The distance between them, maybe 30 feet, maybe a lifetime. The server began to move toward her table. No, Malik's body moved before his brain caught up. He shoved his chair back so hard it crashed to the floor. People turned to stare, but he didn't care. His legs were already carrying him forward. Alexandra, the shout tore from his throat. Look out! Everything became sharp-edged and surreal. The gasps of other diners, security beginning to move, but too slow, all of them too slow. The fake server's head whipping around, eyes widening as he realized he'd been spotted. Malik's heart hammered against his ribs. His lungs burned. 30 feet, 25. The server's hand was moving, bringing the syringe up, trying to hide it against his palm, as he approached Alexandra's table with a practiced smile, like he was just delivering drinks. 20 feet. I'm not going to make it. I'm not fast enough. But his legs kept pumping. He'd spent years on his feet, running between hospital rooms, sprinting to codes, and now every muscle fiber was screaming one thing: get to her. Get to her. Get to her. 15 feet. The server was at Alexandra's table now, leaning down with the tray. Compliments of the house, Miss Pierce. Malik didn't slow down, didn't think, didn't plan. He slammed into the server's side with all his weight and momentum. The impact jarred through Malik's entire body. The tray went flying, glasses shattering across marble like crystalline explosions. And the syringe skittered across the floor, spinning, unmistakable. For a split second, Malik and the fake server were tangled together, both off balance. The man's elbow caught Malik in the ribs, driving the air from his lungs. Malik grabbed the man's vest, trying to keep him away from Alexandra, from the syringe. Police, nobody move. Detective Stone's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. The tray went flying, glasses shattered, and a syringe, unmistakably a syringe, skittered across the marble floor. Police, nobody move. Detective Stone and her team flooded into the restaurant from multiple directions. They grabbed the fake server, slamming him against the bar. Two more officers moved to secure the Vanguard representatives at Alexandra's table, who were already trying to stand, trying to leave. Stay in your seats, one officer commanded, hand on his weapon. Other diners scrambled away, some screaming. Hotel security rushed in, trying to control the chaos. Alexandra stood frozen at her table, her face pale, staring at the syringe on the floor. Detective Stone secured the scene quickly, efficiently. The fake server and the two Vanguard representatives were handcuffed and separated. Other officers began evacuating diners and securing evidence. "Are you hurt?" Detective Stone asked Alexandra. "No, Malik stopped him." Alexandra's eyes found Malik across the restaurant. "Oh my God, Malik." She crossed to him in 3 quick strides and threw her arms around him. Malik held her, feeling her shake, his own adrenaline still coursing through his veins. "You're okay," he murmured. "You're okay." "What was in that syringe?" Alexandra asked Detective Stone, her voice muffled against Malik's shoulder. "We won't know until it's tested," the detective replied, carefully bagging the evidence. "But my guess, a powerful sedative, enough to incapacitate you quickly. They probably planned to make it look like you'd had some kind of medical episode, then rush you to a hospital they controlled." Alexandra pulled back to look at Malik, her eyes wide with the realization of what had almost happened. "You saved my life. Your friend's quick thinking prevented a kidnapping at minimum," Detective Stone added, looking at Malik with new respect. "Possibly something far worse. Well done." But Malik barely heard her. All he could see was Alexandra safe, whole, here. They gave statements at the police station for hours. The two Vanguard representatives, senior executives, it turned out, tried to claim they knew nothing about the attempted drugging, but the recording device on Alexandra had captured everything they needed. "You're making this harder than it needs to be, Miss Pierce," one of them had said during the meeting, his voice smooth and cold. "Accidents happen when people don't cooperate. Ask around. Other companies that refused our offers had unfortunate incidents. Servers breached. Key personnel suddenly unavailable. We'd hate to see that happen to someone you care about." The threat had been clear, and it was on tape. Between that and Mark Everett's testimony, Detective Stone had enough for a warrant. By the time Malik and Alexandra left the station, it was nearly midnight. Margaret was waiting at Pierce Manor, anxious but trying to hide it. "You're both safe?" she asked the moment they walked in. "We're safe, Grandma." Malik hugged her. "It's over. They have everything they need." But Alexandra shook her head. "It's not over yet. Not until we know Vanguard can't hurt anyone else." She was right. Based on the evidence from the hotel, the attempted drugging, the recorded threats, Mark Everett's testimony, federal authorities began building their case. But Vanguard didn't go quietly. 3 days after the hotel incident, Alexandra received a call from her company's head of security. "Miss Pierce, we've got a situation. There's someone here to see you. Says he's from Vanguard's legal team." Alexandra looked at Malik and Detective Stone, who'd been coordinating with her legal counsel. "Tell him I'll be there in 20 minutes. "Are you sure that's wise?" Detective Stone asked. "They're desperate. People make mistakes." Alexandra's smile was cold. "Let's see what they're willing to say when they think they still have leverage." Nia, the man waiting in Pierce Quantum's conference room, was exactly what Malik expected. Expensive suit, perfect hair, the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. "Miss Pierce," he said, standing as they entered. "I'm Marcus Thorne, senior counsel for Vanguard Dominion. I think we can resolve this unfortunate situation before it gets out of hand." Alexandra sat down, her expression neutral. Malik positioned himself behind her, moral support and witness. Detective Stone waited in the adjacent room, listening through a carefully concealed microphone. "Resolve it how?" Alexandra asked. Thorne spread his hands. "The incident at the hotel was a tragic misunderstanding, a rogue contractor acting outside company policy. Vanguard Dominion had no knowledge of his intentions." "That's interesting," Alexandra said calmly, "because we have recordings of your executives making very specific threats before the rogue contractor attempted to drug me." Thorne's smile tightened. "Taken out of context, I'm sure. Business negotiations can sound aggressive to lay people, but Mr. Thorne," Malik interrupted, his voice hard, "we both know what happened. The question is whether you're here to apologize or to threaten us again." Thorne's eyes flicked to Malik, dismissive, condescending. "And you are someone who's tired of watching powerful people hurt others and face no consequences. How noble." Thorne's voice dripped with contempt. He turned back to Alexandra. "Let me be clear, Miss Pierce. Vanguard Dominion has resources you can't imagine. Legal teams that can tie up prosecutions for years. Connections that reach very high levels of government. If you pursue this, we will make your life extremely difficult. We will audit every decision you've ever made. We will depose your employees, your friends, your family." His eyes slid to Malik. "Everyone you care about will be dragged through discovery, their lives examined under a microscope." Alexandra leaned forward. "Is that a threat?" "It's a reality check." Thorne pulled out a document. "Or you could accept this very generous settlement. Vanguard withdraws its acquisition offer permanently. You drop all cooperation with law enforcement, and everyone moves on with their lives. Clean, simple, profitable." He slid the paper across the table. The number at the bottom had a lot of zeros. Alexandra looked at it for a long moment. Then she looked up at Thorne. "No." Thorne's expression hardened. "You're making a mistake." "Am I? Because from where I'm sitting you're the one who came to me. You're the one offering settlements, which tells me you're afraid." Alexandra's smile was sharp. "You should be. You think you've won because you caught one low-level operative. We have contingencies you haven't even imagined. People in positions you'll never win." "That's enough." Detective Stone walked into the room, 2 uniformed officers behind her. Thorne's face went pale. "What is this?" "Marcus Thorne, you're under arrest for attempted obstruction of justice and intimidation of a witness." Detective Stone's voice was crisp, professional. "You have the right to remain silent." As the officers handcuffed him, Thorne's composure finally cracked. "You're going to regret this, all of you. Vanguard will." "Vanguard won't do anything," Detective Stone said calmly, "because while you were busy threatening Miss Pierce, federal agents were executing warrants at your headquarters." "It's over, Mr. Thorne." They watched the news coverage that evening from Pierce Manor. The images were dramatic, federal agents and police swarming Vanguard's gleaming downtown office tower. Employees stood in shocked clusters as boxes of files and computer servers were wheeled out. Marcus Thorne was among the executives being led away in handcuffs, his expensive suit rumpled, his perfect hair disheveled. The news anchor's voice was grave. "Lock it in a coordinated operation. Federal authorities have arrested 12 senior executives of Vanguard Dominion in what prosecutors are calling one of the largest cases of corporate espionage and extortion in a decade. The investigation has uncovered evidence of systematic intimidation affecting dozens of tech companies." Employees stood in shocked clusters as boxes of files and computer servers were wheeled out. Executives in expensive suits were led away in handcuffs. The news anchor's voice was grave. "The investigation has uncovered evidence of systematic corporate intimidation affecting dozens of tech companies across the country. Federal prosecutors are calling it one of the largest cases of corporate espionage and extortion they've seen in a decade. Charges include conspiracy, attempted kidnapping, fraud, hacking and racketeering." Alexandra turned off the TV and leaned against Malik's shoulder, exhausted but relieved. Margaret let out a long breath. "So they really can't touch you anymore." "They're finished," Alexandra confirmed. "Their assets are frozen, their executives are facing serious prison time, and every company they've ever targeted is now coming forward with evidence." Robert Pierce Sr., who was having one of his increasingly rare clear days and had been invited to the manor for the evening, spoke quietly from his chair. "What's built on other people's fear and suffering, sooner or later it has to fall, always does." Alexandra looked at her father with tears in her eyes. "Thanks, Dad." Robert smiled at her. "You did good, sweetheart. Your mother would be proud." 2 weeks later, spring was beginning to break through winter's grip. Alexandra took Malik to a place she said was special to her, Magnolia Hill, a quiet park overlooking the city. They walked along a winding path lined with trees. Some magnolia buds were beginning to emerge, brave pioneers of the coming season. At the top of the hill, with the city spread out below them in soft afternoon mist, Alexandra stopped. "When I was little," she said, her voice soft with memory, "whenever I was sad or scared, my parents would bring me here. My mom called it breathing in the light. She said sometimes you just needed to be somewhere high enough to see that the world was bigger than your problems." She turned to Malik, taking both his hands. "After my mom died and my dad got sick, I stopped coming here. I thought I'd never feel that light again, that sense of possibility. And now?" Malik asked gently. "And now you've brought it back." Alexandra's eyes were bright with emotion. "Not the company, not the victory over Vanguard. You, your kindness, your grandmother, the way you care for my father. You've shown me what it means to have a family again." She took a breath, then knelt down on one knee. Malik's heart stopped. Alexandra pulled out a simple platinum ring, elegant in its simplicity. Malik Turner, I know we haven't known each other long. I know this is fast, maybe even crazy, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life. Her voice trembled slightly. Will you marry me? Will you build a life with me, a family, a future where technology and kindness exist together, where we take care of each other the way we take care of everyone else? Malik felt tears streaming down his face. Yes, God, yes. From that snowy night, I felt like I owed the universe something for that miracle. Turns out, the miracle is you. He pulled her up and kissed her, and for a long moment the world was just the two of them, the spring breeze and the magnolia buds preparing to bloom. 1 week later, Pierce Quantum Analytics Board of Directors convened an emergency meeting to discuss the company's future in the wake of the Vanguard scandal. Some board members were concerned. The publicity, while ultimately positive, had been intense. There were questions about security, about leadership, about whether Alexandra had been reckless in confronting Vanguard directly. A few whispered about selling to a more stable corporation while the company's value was high. Alexandra invited Malik to attend as a newly appointed advisor on social impact and community applications. The boardroom was all glass and steel, cold, corporate, designed to prioritize profit over people. Financial projections and market analyses filled the screens. The debate grew heated. One board member argued about market capitalization. Another cited potential liability issues. A third suggested that Alexandra's emotional decision-making had put the company at risk. Finally, one of the older board members, a silver-haired woman who'd been silent until now, spoke up. I'd like to hear from Mr. Turner. Alexandra brought him here for a reason. I want to know what that reason is. All eyes turned to Malik. He stood slowly, awkward in his borrowed suit among all these power players. His hands were sweating, but his voice was steady. I'm not an executive. I don't understand quarterly projections or shareholder value in the way you do, but I do understand what it means to work 3 jobs and still fall short. I understand what it feels like to be invisible. He looked around the table. I've spent my entire adult life taking care of people who can't afford proper health care. People who are rationed medications because of cost. People who die because they can't access the technology that could save them. He pointed to the financial charts on the screen. These are numbers to you, but behind every number is a person. A real human being with a family, with dreams, with value. His voice grew stronger. Pierce Quantum's AI could help hospitals identify critical cases before they become emergencies. It could help allocate resources so people like my grandmother don't get left behind. It could save lives, not just wealthy lives, but all lives. He paused, making sure he had their attention. If you let people like Vanguard take control of this technology, it becomes a weapon, a tool for manipulation, for profit extraction, for making the rich richer while everyone else suffers. But if you let Alexandra lead, if you trust her vision, this technology has a chance to be something else, something better, real light in the darkness. He sat down. The room was silent. The silver-haired board member nodded slowly. Your father used to say exactly that, Alexandra, almost word for word. She looked around the table. Robert Pierce built this company on the belief that technology should serve people, not exploit them. I think we've lost sight of that, and I for one am tired of being afraid. The vote was called. When it was done, the result was clear. The board would support Alexandra's continued leadership and establish a new initiative, Technology for Community, with Malik serving as senior advisor. Alexandra reached under the table and squeezed Malik's hand. They'd won. Not just the battle, but the war. And they'd won it the right way. Life at Pierce Manor settled into a new rhythm. Malik spent mornings at Harmony Hills with Robert, who continued to have good days and bad days, but seemed overall calmer and happier with Malik's regular presence. Margaret took over part of the kitchen, teaching the professional chef her traditional recipes and telling stories that made everyone laugh. Alexandra worked from home more often, finding that she didn't need to be in the office every day to run her company well. What she needed was balance, family, joy. One evening, as the 4 of them, Alexandra, Malik, Margaret and Robert, who was visiting for dinner, sat around the dining table, Robert had one of his clear moments. He looked at Malik with sudden sharp focus. Thank you, grandson. The word hung in the air. Grandson. Clear, intentional. Real. Malik's eyes burned with tears. You're welcome, sir. Robert smiled, then turned to Alexandra. You picked well, sweetheart. He's got a good heart, like your mother. Then the fog returned to his eyes, but the smile remained. Margaret reached over and patted Robert's hand. That's right, this is what family looks like. 6 months later, on a crisp autumn day, they held the wedding in the back garden of Pierce Manor. It was small, just close friends, colleagues, and the people who mattered most. Robert was there in his wheelchair, with a nurse nearby. He had more bad days than good now, but today was a good one. Margaret walked Malik down the aisle, both of them dressed in their finest. Alexandra waited at the altar, radiant in a simple white dress. The ceremony was short, heartfelt. When they exchanged vows, Malik's voice was thick with emotion. I was lost in the cold, alone and afraid, and you stopped. You saw me, you cared, and you showed me that sometimes the worst nights lead to the best mornings. I promised to spend the rest of my life being the warmth you were for me that night. Alexandra's vows were equally simple. I was successful but lonely, accomplished but isolated. You reminded me that achievement means nothing without connection, and that the most important work we do is taking care of each other. I promise to build a life with you where kindness isn't weakness, and where love is the highest achievement of all. As they kissed, Robert applauded from his wheelchair. Margaret wiped tears from her eyes, and somewhere in the back Detective Stone, who'd been invited as a friend, smiled and raised her glass. Winter returned to Riverside City as it always does, but inside Pierce Manor, lights glowed warm. Jazz played softly. The smell of Margaret's cooking filled the air. Malik and Alexandra sat by the fireplace, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting against his chest. Do you ever think about that night? Alexandra asked quietly. At the bus station. All the time. Malik kissed the top of her head. It was the worst night of my life, and the best, because it led me here, to you. We started in the coldest place, Alexandra murmured, and found each other in the warmest. Outside snow began to fall, soft, gentle, beautiful. Inside they were home. Thank you for staying with us through this entire journey. If you've made it this far, your heart walked beside Malik, Alexandra, Margaret, and Robert, feeling every quiet heartbreak, every flicker of hope, every moment of courage. Stories like these aren't just entertainment. They're reflections of the resilience, kindness, and humanity we all carry inside us, even when the world makes it hard to remember. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments, and tell us what this story made you feel. Did it remind you of someone you love? Did it make you believe again in the power of simple kindness? Your voice matters here. You're part of this community where stories aren't just consumed, they're felt, shared, and remembered. If this story touched your heart, if it made you believe that good things can still happen, that people can still choose compassion over cruelty, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Every subscription helps us keep telling stories that believe in people, in second chances, in doing what's right even when it's hard. Until the next story, take care of yourself and the people you love. We'll see you soon with more stories that speak to the heart, honor the unsung, and remind us all, no matter what we're facing, we're not alone. See you in the next one. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a story that might change how you see the world.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.